For the last several decades, wages have not kept up with inflation. In fact, they've been woefully behind. And if you feel like you're treading water, you are. The middle income range in Canada has not budged in about 30 years. So whereas in the 1960s, these affectations of life were basic expectations, right? That you could have a family, you could own a car, you could have a home. Now it's a choice. You have to decide. Young people today have to decide which of these things they actually want most. But that hasn't stopped real estate prices from escalating much, much, much higher than the growth of wages or inflation. And to the extent now that young people are saying, you know what? I just don't think it's going to happen. I don't think I'm ever going to own a home. Anyone in the room from Home Depot? Well, I got bad news for you. If people stop buying homes, that's not good. So we have to be very conscious of that social condition. Babies. Young people today are saying, you know what, the prospect of having children is just too economically burdensome. Don't think that we're going to be able to afford babies. So if you're in the baby furniture business, that's not good news. Fuel prices going completely out of whack compared to both inflation and wages, to the point where people are saying, there's no way I can afford to own a car. Anyone here from Canadian Tire? Bad news. Right? We need people to be buying these things. We need people to be having families and homes and automobiles. We are coming from a place where capitalism raised all the ships in the harbor to a place where there are only yachts and life rafts. And that's not good. That's not good for society, and it's not good for young people because that makes things like education virtually impossible. Right? Look at the tuitions. Tuitions today that kids are paying triple the rate of inflation. Tuition going up by 6% each year. Why? Because since about 1990, we have precipitously dropped our investments in education. You could argue it began in the 70s and has just declined since then. Government contributions to public education have withered. And that has put even universities like Queen's in a difficult position, a position where they are now financially challenged. Why? Because a drop in enrollment has meant that they have had to recalibrate for foreign students from wealthy families that can afford to send their kids here. Students that are no longer welcome to come, not least in the numbers that they were. And so that really puts our educational institutions in a very difficult place. But here's the thing, why is a kid going to go through all that anyway just to get a job that they're not qualified for? A job they probably didn't even understand they could have when they were in university, and university never gave them the skills or the aptitude to do it. And as a consequence, we are now seeing not a rise in education in the country, but a drop. And that's happening on both sides of the border in both colleges and universities. Our view of industrialism has changed too, where once it was all about investing in Canada, investing in our small businesses, investing in our small industry players. That changed when it became all about cost. We were prepared to go as far and as wide as we needed to find the cheapest we could find to bring home to sell to Canadians. We did this. We did that. That trade imbalance is on us. And so, this has continued, this offshoring, not just of production, but also of labor. Right? Offshoring now has had a disastrous impact on employment in this country. First, it started with manufacturing, then it moved to things like call centers, then it moved to things like programming, right? computer programmers and analysts thought they were safe. No, 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 because there's somebody in the world that will do that for less than you will. And now, if you can believe it, we are actually going to the lowest paid people in society and saying your job can be done by someone in the Philippines for a fraction of the price. So here we stand today, choking on each other's garbage, and many, many people fearful about their futures. So I'm here to tell you today that there is no more strong bipartisan government that is collaboratively working on behalf of all Canadians. There is no form of capitalism that is raising the fortunes of the middle, raising all the ships in the harbor, making everybody feel like they can afford a little more next year. There is no view of industrialism today that says, no, we are going to invest our resources domestically and grow our own fields, grow our own garden. And there's certainly no public education system that is producing bright, shiny candidates to come into your organization. There are other businesses in the world right now that are looking at this as an opportunity. They're looking at these things that I mentioned: democracy, capitalism, the notion of industrialism, and education as the new competitive frontiers, because they have realized one very simple but one extremely profound thing, and that is that we have hit the end of the era where corporations do nothing but take. We have reached the era where there is nothing left to take. Right? Corporations cannot simply continue to take from these societal systems without giving back, because we have bankrupted the systems. And they recognize that the worm must turn here. We're going to have to begin as organizations contributing back to these things. And that means that we're going to have to embark on a massive rethink, a rethink of everything. We need to rethink democracy, the very idea of democracy. Because what is the point of democracy? Every 4 years we go and vote, right? But what does that actually do? And especially, what's the value for you as business people of democracy? Well, here's one rather important point. Democracy opens up the ability to have a free and fair market. They go hand in hand. In fact, there are some experts that believe that without democracy, you simply cannot have a free and fair market to thrive in, to build your fortune in. But there are all kinds of other things too. Management of essential systems, fire, roads, police forces, things like that, and maintaining a system of equal opportunity where any business can be started, where anyone can be a success. Capitalism loves democracy. Capitalism hates dictatorship. And so we have to look at this relationship with government differently now as business people. Because let's face it, for a long time now, we've done what we could to sidestep regulation. We've done what we could to obfuscate. We've done what we could to sort of come at loggerheads with business in too many cases. We need to understand that we can be friends with benefits. There really are some really great things that can happen when you begin to work with government. And there are great things that government gets out of that as well. Speed to market. They can capitalize on private ingenuity. And you can gain insight into what's happening. You can be a seat at the table that actually has a hand in orchestrating policy. I'll give you an example. This is a business in the US called Citizen Shipper, sort of an Uber for cargo delivery, okay, where they have independent drivers. And their insight by their CEO was that this is a really difficult market for consumers to navigate. There are so many choices of shipping companies that you can use to transport freight. So he thought to himself, you know what we need is something that can help us stand out. So they began working directly with the US Department of Agriculture to actually shape and streamline the the process for getting their drivers certified by the FDA or by the USDA. They could now have USDA certified drivers on the road, allowing them to stand out from their competitors when it came to something like pet delivery, a delivery that was really, an emotional choice for someone that owns a cat or a dog or some other animal. So the future of democracy is not business and government coming at loggerheads, it is working together and building trust back into the public, that business and government can work together for mutual benefit. And I want to applaud the RCC for taking a lead in doing just that, working on the Grocery Code of Conduct for years, working to bring retailers and government together at the table on behalf of consumers. Because again, this kind of activity breathes trust into government. And trust is essential to maintaining our democracy and our free market. Now, what do you do if you're not a large corporation? Well, you can work with your government on a municipal basis, right? You can work with local government, and that too gives you a seat at the table. It gives you profile. It might even help your brand recognition, but you'll certainly get insight into the way things are unfolding in your community. We need to rethink capitalism. And I never thought I would say this to you. In my lifetime, I never thought I would say these words. I think Walmart's getting a little loose with their money. I really do. They're starting to pay people a lot more money. They're giving managers now bonuses of up to $20,000 US each year. A Walmart manager can make somewhere between $400,000 and $500,000 in the US. They're raising starting pay for employees, and it's because they have rethought capitalism. Doug McMillon is a smart guy, and he's smart enough to know that today is not 200 years ago. 200 years ago, you had an investor, singular, that would put their fortune into building a business. And so if it was a good year, of course they got the returns because they took all the risk, right? But today, that's not the case. We have a public market. We have millions of shareholders that may own stock in any of the companies that are represented here today. And if you have a bad year, well, whatever, it's 0.1% of my RRSP, my mutual fund. Big deal. I'm probably not even going to notice. But if you have a bad year and you've got to lay people off, who takes the risk? Employees, some of whom may lose everything in that process. So Walmart has rethought capitalism, but not because they're just trying to do a solid for humanity. They've done it because they also know that this breeds loyalty. It breeds retention when you are fair with people, because surprisingly, most people do not feel that they are being treated fairly by their corporations. And I think Walmart has another motivation too. I think Walmart is smart enough to understand, you know what, if we continue to suppress wages, guess what? The people who work for us fall out of the middle class and into the working class, and if we continue, then they go into the underclass, and guess what? They are also our customers. We are literally driving the middle class into the underclass, and so they need to restore that strong middle class. But what if you're not Walmart? What if you're just a small retailer somewhere and you want to know, well, what can I do? What can I do to instill this fairness in my business? Well, here's the difference between living wage in BC and minimum wage. And that was a problem for Patricia Massey. She's the owner of an Indigenous bookstore, a bookstore that represents underrepresented communities. And she said, you know what? I am going to commit to paying a living wage. Even though I don't need to, I'm going to commit to doing it. She became British Columbia's first living wage employer. And the very fact that I'm talking about her and her business right now is a testament to what that can do for your business. We also have to rethink education. Guess what? Target is sending people to school for free. They're sending thousands and thousands of their associates to school for free. Why are they doing it? Is it just a nice gesture? Are they just feeling bad for the young people that can't afford education? They're doing it for a few reasons. Number one, and this is going to be common sense masquerading as insight, but guess what? If you're good at English and you're good at math, that makes you a better employee. Imagine that, right? Literacy, whether it's applied to math or language, makes you a more capable, trainable employee. And guess what? The education system isn't doing that anymore. But Target has also realized something else. They have realized that it actually lowers turnover. If we pay for people's schooling and we make them feel like they're getting ahead in their life, they want to stay. They don't want to go and try and find opportunity elsewhere. And that is just one of the benefits. Your staff are less prone to burnout. Your retention rates go up. Your pipeline of talent actually improves. And that's why companies like Google are saying, screw it, we'll just become an educational institute. Never mind paying for their education, we'll give them their education. $49 a month on Coursera can make you a computer programmer, right? Not 4 years slogging away at a university and carrying upwards of $30,000 in student debt. And so it's my belief that within the next 10 to 20 years, we are going to see corporate academic institutions arise that rival Ivy League schools, because they're going to give educations that are efficient, that are cost effective, and they're going to teach people what they actually need to do. What was that? Was that a ghost? Is there a ghost here? They're going to teach people what they actually need to know to do their jobs. So what do you do if you're not Google or Target? Well, you can still partner with local academic institutions. You can offer to speak to classes, tell them about your industry, tell them about your category. You can offer internship programs. You can set up your own pipeline of talent. And once you have all the talent in your marketplace, guess what? You start to crush your competition.